Welcome to Western Music History. I'm Miss Park, and I'll be your teacher for the next few semesters. This class will take you on a journey through time, exploring how music developed in the Western world, from ancient civilizations to the modern era. Whether you already play an instrument, enjoy listening to film scores, or are completely new to classical music, this course will help you understand how music connects with culture, society, and human creativity. So, what exactly is Western music? In this class, Western refers to music that developed mainly in Europe and North America, especially the kind of music we usually call classical music. Okay? You might have heard names like Beethoven, Mozart, or Bach before, right? But Western music history includes much more than just a few famous composers. It's about the ideas and instruments, styles, and stories that have shaped the way music is written and performed over the past 2,500 years. Okay, so let's talk about why you should study music history. Well, music is kind of a mirror, so it reflects the values, emotions, and beliefs of the time it was written. In ancient times, music was connected to philosophy and religion. And next period, in the Middle Ages, it helped spread the Christian faith. During the Renaissance, it became more expressive and complex. And in the Baroque period, it dazzled courts and churches. And in the 20th century, it exploded into hundreds of styles from classical to jazz to film music. We have classical period and romantic in between, but I'm telling you that music is a mirror of society. It reflects the values and emotions of people and beliefs that was widespread of that time. So by learning about music from the past, you begin to recognize the patterns and influences in the music you hear today. Okay, so what will we do in this course? So, over the next several weeks, we'll explore major musical periods from the ancient world to the 20th century, the whole music history in short, and we're going to study important composers like J.S. Bach, Handel, and Vivaldi. Okay, we're going to start with the Baroque period, and we're going to learn to recognize musical styles, instruments, and forms from different eras. And we're also going to listen to music examples and reflect, think on how they make us feel or what they represent. And we're going to complete fun projects like creating posters, timelines, or giving short presentations. Okay? Even if you don't read sheet music well or play an instrument well, don't worry. This class is about listening, thinking, and connecting music with history. Okay? Okay, so what is the goal of this course? By the end of the course, you'll be able to identify and describe the characteristics of each period in Western music, in short, of course, and understand how historical events and culture influenced music. And you'll be able to develop your own opinions and responses to music from different times. And you'll be able to gain appreciation for the rich tradition of Western classical music. Okay? So, I have a note that this class focuses on Western traditions, but that doesn't mean they're more important than other kinds of music. Music from Asia, Africa, where is it? The Middle East and other indigenous cultures has its own deep histories too. So in India, you have Indian music. So I'm from Korea, South Korea. In Korea, we have other um, a little different tradition of music. It's very different, okay, from the ones in Europe or in America. So we have different traditions. So in this course, we're going to focus on Western music simply because that's the subject of this course. And of course, many of the ideas we discuss, rhythm, melody, harmony, expression, exist in all musical traditions. Okay, we're going to learn Western music history, so don't worry if that doesn't fit in your culture. It's just a subject of our course, okay? Later on, we're going to talk about Indian music tradition and other Oriental music tradition and other indigenous music tradition. Okay? So get ready to open your ears, your eyes, and your imagination. Western music history is not just about facts and dates, it's all about stories, sounds, and ideas that continue to inspire people all over the world today. So, that was a short introduction to our course. So, let's get started. So, I'm so glad that you are joining this class. Over the course of this semester, we're going to explore the Baroque period in depth. But before we dive into the Baroque masters like Bach, Handel, and Vivaldi, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. We have to look at the whole music history. This week's lesson is all about the timeline of music history. So we'll take a brief tour through the main musical eras from the very beginning, from the ancient times to the 20th century, which is now, and learn how music has evolved over thousands of years, okay? So you won't need to memorize everything right away. But the goal today is just to get a sense of the major periods, their approximate dates, and some basic characteristics. So after watching this video, you will complete a worksheet to help reinforce what you've learned. So each musical period had its own unique sound and purpose and tradition. Sometimes music was mostly for religious worship, other times for royal courts like rich people, or even public entertainment. So in this course, we'll focus on Western art music, that means classical music traditions that developed in Europe from ancient times until the present. Let's walk through the seven major periods of Western music. I'll give you the approximate dates and a few key features of each. We start with ancient time. where everything was beginning, everything started to happen. So everything was very primitive, which means very early stage. So ancient times is before 500 AD, very long time ago. So they had Greek and Roman music, and the music was mostly vocal because the instruments were very limited. Some instruments were not even invented yet. They had bone flute that was made out of animal bones. They made a hole into the animal bone and they blew into it and make sound. So everything was very primitive and they knew how to sing. So mostly the music was human singing, okay? And the music theory based on math, based on numbers and philosophy. They thought music was based on numbers and human thinking, the philosophy. Okay, they thought music was very important to people. Okay, very, very important for religion. And in this time, it was very long time ago. It was even before civilizations happened, so no recordings survive. But we have some notation fragments. It was before 500 AD. The next period is medieval, which started 500 until 1400. This time, the music was church-centered. That means music was generally for the church. They played music in church, okay? So at that time, they had the thing called the Gregorian chant. It is similar to the church hymns for now. So it was one voice chant.
Utque an laxis resonare fibris mira gestorum famuli tuorum solve poluti labire atum sante Ioanne.
In medieval era, the first musical notation appeared. Okay, now you write music on the staff, the 5-line staff, right? But at that time, they didn't have that. The notation have emerged over time, has evolved over time. At that time, they started to make the way how to notate notes. Like they started with 4-line staff. They didn't have quarter note and half note at that time. Okay, so the first shape of musical notation appeared at this time, the medieval. And at the end of the medieval era, the early stage of polyphony happened. The polyphony means there are more than one melody at once. Okay, the polyphony started, and there were secular music. That was the music not for the church. Okay, there were troubadours and trouvères, the singers that travels. Okay, and instrumental music in courts and towns. Here, the courts refers to the royal or noble household, easily the rich people, not a legal court. Okay? The next period is Renaissance. The meaning of the word Renaissance is rebirth. Again, being born. So in Renaissance dates from 1400 to 1600. So in this era, rich polyphony. Polyphony is having more than one voice. Polyphony, many voice parts moving independently. And printing press spreads music widely. Printing press helps you to print music very, very fast and very large amount. Before, people had to write down every note and every like single thing on the manuscript, but printing press allowed people have mass production and they could provide the music to many people. In this period, the instruments developed, the new instruments were invented as well. So people gathered and make ensembles and play together, and music for both church and court. Okay, church music was sacred for religion purposes. So they had masses, motets, hymns performed in cathedrals or chapels. Court music was secular or ceremonial. So they had chansons, dances, madrigals performed for nobles, kings, or dukes in palaces or at formal events. So we're moving to the Baroque period. The period where we're going to focus this semester. Okay, in Baroque, they had the drama and contrast in music. And the music became very complex and new genres emerged like madrigal and motet. and strong use of harmony and bass lines. Okay, so music is turning into the ones that we are familiar now. So in Baroque period, we have famous composers like J.S. Bach, Handel, and Vivaldi. The dates is 1600 to 1750. The genre called opera emerged.
Non so più cosa son, cosa faccio, or di fuoco ora sono di ghiaccio, ogni donna mangiare di colore, ogni donna mi fa palpitar, ogni donna mi fa palpitar, ogni donna mi fa palpitar. Solo il nome d'amor di diletto, e se tu non mi stai credendo, cosa faccio? Or di fuoco ora sono di ghiaccio, ogni donna mangiare di colore, ogni donna mi fa palpitar, ogni donna mi fa palpitar, ogni donna mi fa palpitar.
I told you that music became very complex, so there were a lot of ornamentations in music, and the dramatic style started. Moving into classical period, dates 1750 to 1820. So classical period is a little different from Baroque. Baroque music is very complex, a lot of polyphony music, but in classical period, people seek clarity, balance, and structure, the ones that have melody and accompaniment. Very simple, balanced music. So in classical period, the forms emerged, like sonata form, symphonies, and string quartets. In this period, many of the famous composers you know worked: Haydn, Mozart, and early Beethoven. Later, we are moving into Romantic period, which dates 1820 to 1900. In this period, emotional expression and imagination is key characteristic. Orchestras got very large. Even more than 100 people were on stage for the orchestra. And a lot of the virtuosic soloists that have very mesmerizing techniques that played very well, like violins or piano. And famous composers, there were Chopin, Tchaikovsky, or Wagner, and so on. Moving into 20th century, we're going to the present time, 1900 to 2000. There were so many styles. They had modernism, they had jazz influence. They had film music, they had movies, they composed music for the movies. They even had electronic music. Okay, so at that time, music breaks all the rules. So this week's assignment to complete a worksheet that reviews what we just covered. Don't worry if you don't understand a few words, we're going to work on it. There are two tasks. First, timeline matching. Okay, match each musical period with its correct century, correct date, and general description, general characteristics of each period. Okay, and second one is the reflection question. So answer a short question. Which musical era are you most curious about and why? Okay, so basically choose the musical era you find most intriguing and explain why it captures your interest. So, with your friends, discuss a piece of music from this period, or like, oh, I like this music from which period? Like, I like this sonata by Beethoven from classical period. So, in our next lesson, we'll go deeper into ancient and medieval music. We'll look at what ancient instruments looked like, how chants sounded, and what kind of music was sung in early churches. Before we dive into the Baroque periods in depth, we're going to review all the periods in music history, but very briefly. So I encourage you to keep your timeline chart somewhere visible so that can help you connect the dots throughout the semester. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.